All right, welcome into the half, everybody. Sorry about the weird face I just made there. I just about spilled coffee all over my mixer board. So, so cheers, by the way. So, welcome into the half. My name is Aaron Montgomery. This fine gentleman sitting next to me is Mr. Erich Campbell. You can find Eric over at erichcampbell.com, ERICH Campbell.com. Make sure that you go over there and check that out, and
Thank you
all
much.
sorts of great stuff happening over there. You can find, there we go, perfect. He's producing in the background. You can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com.
Mhm.
Eric, we are second show of 2023 here on the half. And we kind of started talking a little bit about kind of the idea, right? The I don't know,
Yes, the
format. I don't
concept.
know. This was never about it being really kind of formatted. It's definitely not scripted. There's none of
No.
that kind of stuff. But we kind of felt like, in review, we always tell people, let's go back and review, figure out what's working, what's not working, what do you got to work on. And for us, we wanted to continue to make it about the engagement, make it about the community. um,
Surely.
so so before I keep rambling on, Eric, what dive in with your thoughts. Kind of what was it that, what's the vision that you're seeing?
Well, we always want to make sure that we have room for the Q&A, but we often do have some really good conversations going on around two other guys. So
Mhm.
what we kind of thought about was this three-part kind of structure. We're going to jump in and start with a little tiny bit of review to other guys. We don't want to become just like the after show for two other guys, but often there's some good stuff to share there. And as Aaron said, sometimes it's nice to have producer Eric come back on in the front end to get to say something about the show.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we're going to do what I really love is to get Aaron in his space, which is all about success, and have some time for talking about the successes that you've had for the week, kind of sharing some wins, stuff like that, which is really great to do to kind of celebrate those wins and talk about them. And then finish off with, things that are still challenging you, things that are still difficult for you, and things that we can help with. And that includes just the Q&A. So that's kind of the structure we're going to go. We'll talk to
Yeah.
you guys also in the middle of it. We'll talk to some stuff, that we usually do, but maybe not quite so much just saying hi to everybody for the whole episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had some episodes like that, but we do want to still engage with you. But we are going to try and bring some content as well to make sure that this is kind of a worthwhile listen for everybody who's here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I said this last week, Eric, and I still stick by this, right? Our whole goal here is to make this a program that's important to
Yeah,
you, that you're
yeah,
willing to go share it with your friends, right? So,
exactly, exactly.
that then it's worth our time, it's worth your time, that kind of
Yeah,
thing, right? Is the ultimate goal here. So, well, with that being said, then Eric, and I do agree that the real important part for me, that I do like the fact that, like you said, it's not about becoming the after two regular guys show, but it's
yep.
an opportunity where the guy behind the magic curtain pushing all the buttons gets to put in his 15, 20 cents, 30 cents, whatever dollars worth of
Well, and
take. So
the other thing is, if somebody did miss the initial show this morning, it sometimes it's great to get one more chance to kind of give people a shot at it. So if
correct.
you didn't get to see that anywhere where Two Other Guys is, you can go and watch it right after this. This initial show we did this morning with Jay Bassell on branding was spectacular. It was a not to be missed show. If you want to know anything about how to keep your brand alive and relevant, listening to today's show should be on your list for the weekend if you haven't done. And as we have here from Barb says the branding on the Two Early Guys was great this morning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jay Bassell knows what he's talking about. He has done his homework for real, and it was fantastic this morning. So a lot of what he talked about that I think is relevant to us was that he talked about being authentic and personal with your branding. So
Yeah.
letting yourself be part of it and the culture of your company be part of that branding, that's part of the relevance. But he also had these pillars about, being customer obsessed, which was fantastic. Really working on how to solve problems for customers.
Yeah.
Something that I say all the time. You don't want to end up as a commodity. So I say be a consultant, not a commodity. The concept is you're solving problems with the tools, with the products you provide. The problem solving, the thing that you sell isn't embroidery, isn't sublimation, isn't screen printing. You are selling promotions. You are selling a solution to helping people commemorate an event. That's what we're doing. We are helping people with the end problem. They have the goal, more exposure for their brand, developing more, rabid fans, uh, trying to commemorate an event, giving somebody an heirloom. Any of those things are problems we're actually solving for people. embroidery is the vehicle, sublimation is the vehicle, screen printing is the vehicle. And there's other ways we could do it too. That's the thing. It's not just one way we can handle that. So fantastic stuff there from Jay. I really loved those pillars, and he had some really great resources as well. So if you did not check out the two other guys this morning, do yourself a favor, catch it on the replay squad. Get in and see the stuff that Jay said, because he has a fantastic way of putting it. And as he always does, he communicates it down to a level where it's really distilled and understandable. So really fantastic stuff from Jay this morning. And I'll say there's not that much for me to add, because he and I speak the same language on this stuff, to the degree that we could probably sub in for each other on presentations. And aside from the fact that his mustache is better than mine, I don't think that you would know the difference necessarily. So he's
and
he's a
and his hat's not as cool as yours, so you
I don't
take
know,
some,
man.
you lose some, right? You win some, you lose some.
We have different ways of going about it. Jay brings things down and essentializes them in a way that everybody can understand them. I try and drag you into the technical a little bit and try and I still think I essentialize and communicate things, but at the same time, Jay's got a way of doing it that I think is a little more rock and roll than mine. I fall a little further into the college radio than Jay does. Jay rocks, and I'm a little bit alternative. But hey,
There you go. There you
that's how we
go.
do these things.
Like maybe some grunge in there. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah,
Okay.
can't help it. Unfortunately, we were talking about that today. Also, he's like, "Oh, this book was published in 1997," and he's like, "You're probably this age." And Aaron had to correct him on what age he was, and I was like, "Oh, I was graduating high school." So yeah, grunge era is for better or worse my era.
Yeah,
Though I'm
your
certainly
era.
feeling old enough these days.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
the way.
But we did talk about cassette tapes, and that made me happy. So I like cassette
Yeah,
tapes.
I'm a CD kid more by far.
Yeah.
Though I had cassettes. Here's the other thing, because I was kind of like underground punk and ska scene at the time, believe it or not. I had lots of trashed cassettes in my car too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. All right. Well, let's close out talking about two regular
yeah,
guys real quick, right? So, the branding blueprint was what Jay was on to talk to us about today, and he's
yes,
definitely done some
yes,
work on that. One of you already brought up the talking about the problems that you
sure,
solve for
sure,
people,
sure.
right? What do you have any ways that you help people with that kind of are like how do I pick that out? How do I understand what problem I solve for people? So I'm just throwing a random question at you here, but this is
Sure.
the price you have to pay for the hot take.
All right, for the hot take. Yeah, I'll say this. The way I kind of work with people on this is say, what is it that you can uniquely address? And a lot of the time, it's not just equipment. Equipment's part of it. Surely everybody talks about their equipment and what they're set up
Yeah.
to do. But I think part of that, it really is the mix of skill set you have, the equipment you have, and the knowledge you have on hand. And I'll actually explain something that we found out when I was working at Black Duck. We ended up doing a lot of movie and TV stuff, and here's how
Mhm.
it kind of came about. One of the strengths we had is we were really about the craft, and we were willing to try something out. If you were willing to pay for the time, we were willing to try out something new and experiment and learn on the fly, because we had not only multiple decoration mediums in house, we had in-house designers, and me as an in-house digitizer, so we could experiment, we could iterate very quickly, make new
Mhm.
versions of things very quickly,
Yeah.
and we could produce everything in house.
Yeah.
So that meant our unique solutions that we could offer. We had creative in house. We had people who had art skills. We had digitizing skills. We had the ability to consult with you about what would work,
Yeah.
and we could turn around incredibly quickly. The thing that some people would consider a weakness is that we cost more.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you were somebody who had money in hand and needed something quickly that had to be handled creatively, we were the place to go, because other people literally just said no. We said yes. And so, what was the emotional kind of way we handled it? What was the relevant thing that we did? You walk into our shop, everything about the shop was creative. We had art everywhere. We had murals
Yeah.
on the walls. We had a very creative space that was branded. All of the artists had kicked in. We had samples that were innovative and interesting and used multimedia very early in the concept of using multimedia.
Mhm.
So, everything around you said, here are people who experiment and do crazy stuff, and we made it very clear, like, yeah, we will put in the extra hours. If you've got, you drop the coin, we'll make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what it ended up being is, though we never started that concept thinking we're going to do film and TV, those are the kind of people where it's like, I've got money but I don't have time, and things
Correct.
have to be handled creatively and correctly. That
Yeah.
was our unique solution. We're like, all right, turns out here's the tools we have on hand, and this is the solution we're offering. then we start marketing that solution. We say, hey, we can
Yes.
take your concept and in-house create something where if you drop that concept off with us, we have the entire creative power to be able to create something, and we can offer you multiple solutions because we know about all these different methods.
Yeah.
We'll package it up and offer you that solution. And we
Yeah.
ended up doing that with a lot of different companies after the fact. So it's
Sure.
about taking stock of your strengths and understanding what kind of problems your target market has, or what kind of problems you could address in a market, and then addressing those, like advertising to that market to say, hey, we understand these problems that you have. Here's what we have on board to make that happen.
Yeah. Cool.
And I
I
think
love
that's
that.
what makes the sense. That's what makes
Yeah.
sense to me is knowing part of it, big part of it, knowing
Yeah.
yourself and what you have on board. I mean, you can also develop in a direction, but the first place to start is always with where you are and who you are and what you are.
Yeah.
It's like we talk about niche marketing. If you
Yeah.
know a niche, you have unique information about that niche that you belong to that you can address. You understand what they need, you understand who they are, the
Hmm.
culture is on board, you speak their language. That makes you a participant in that place, and you already have an idea of the problems that they have and the ones you might need to solve. And you
Yeah.
know how to apply yourself to those problems.
Yeah. I love
That's
it. I
awesome.
love it. There you go. So there's an extra take on going from okay, what is you?
off,
But
off the dome, as it were.
yeah, I like
Off
it.
the
I like
dome,
it.
as
Yeah,
it
and
were.
I think that's you've hit it just exactly right. I mean, with our success group, we talk a lot about that, right? What are your strengths? Because everybody's going to be unique. And so I want to learn from other people, right? I want to hear these stories about Black Duck. I want to hear the
Sure.
stories that Jay was telling, talking about printed threads and brand fuel and stuff like that. But I'm not going to then turn around and try to emulate that. I think I tried to bring that up on Two Regular Guys
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
where it's like I can't just grow my beard out and start carrying a taco around and expect that my
No,
brand is going to blow up because now I'm a taco guy too, right? um, but I can learn from all that. And then, like you said, go back, look internally and say, okay, let's take stock, as you
sure.
called out, of what it is that we do well and what it is that we enjoy doing. And, you know, it's our uniqueness, right? It's our purpose. So in our success group, we talk about that as our purpose and mission, and
Hmm.
then kind of take it from there. So I love it. Okay.
Well, don't you think part of it's culture too? It's like two regular
Yeah.
guys. Nobody's surprised you guys are drinking beer and eating wings. Like
Yeah.
but there's nothing wrong with that. There are people who are like, why is there a chicken wing in the logo? At the same time, even when they say that, they know there's a chicken wing in the logo. Like,
Exactly. It's our brand.
it's your
Yeah.
brand. It's always
Yeah.
been there, and it's consistent. It's relevant to who you are. You have stories you can tell about it,
Yeah.
and even if it doesn't have to be on topic for the industry for it to be relevant.
Sure.
Jay's taco isn't on topic.
Yeah.
Me using 50-cent words and wearing this hat all the time isn't necessarily on topic. In fact, I get dragged all the time for the fact that I don't have embroidery on my hat. So believe me, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly on topic, but if you are uniquely you, and you are consistent with what you're giving out,
Yeah.
it just happens. Part of that also
Exactly.
just happens.
Yeah.
It grows
Yeah.
out of consistently giving of and sharing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're a newer business, right,
Yeah.
then the thing to do is to show up in a way that is, like you said,
Yeah.
consistent with who you are. You don't try
Yep.
to be somebody that you're not. You show up as that person, and then your brand, your, like you said, culture will grow out of that. So
Yep. Yep.
perfect. Okay.
Love it.
Good
Love it.
stuff, for sure. We ready to head to segment number 2?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Well, so what this was my request, and I wanted to just say,
Yes.
what are the wins, right? I think if we can always start things off in because next we're going to talk about challenges, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
we start things off with the wins, then the challenges feel so much easier to overcome because you're already going, okay, yep, I can do things because I have these wins. But if
Yeah.
you were just to go right to the challenges, I want to blame, complain, and make excuses
Sure.
automatically,
Sure.
and you have no reference of a win because every day people have things that go their way, right? They might
Sure.
not be big, huge standout things all the time, but every single day, right? Even in the bad days, and sometimes it's harder to find those than other days. So if you make it a habit of going, what things did I accomplish today? What wins did I have today? And even if it's just, I got out of bed today, right?
Yeah.
That could be a
Yeah.
win. So anyhow,
I
um,
agree.
I don't want to get too much further along because I do want to hear what everybody's win is. Barb actually has one in here for us already, and then
Nice.
Eric, if you've got one on, but let's hit Barb's here real quick.
Yeah, please.
And so she says, win for the week is getting second DTF printer online. Needs to work on the social media and website, as this is my nemesis. So we'll get to those in a second.
Challenges,
But
yes, yes.
challenges, I love it. So that is Barb's. What other wins do you guys have out there? I want to put this one up for Marianne real quick. We have an established business that bought another forehead to add to their business. Kudos to them. I have my loyal clients, and he does too. So there you go. Little co-opetition, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, and honestly, that's the thing to remember too, is that we don't have to necessarily address everything as, knock down, drag out,
Yeah, for
fights
sure.
and battles.
Yeah,
and hey, I understand. I think we all fall into it sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. What it really is if you ever get to a point where you feel like a little insecure about something that's going on, or you're worried about your own station, it's very easy then to start looking outside.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, looking outside won't ever necessarily change anything about what's going on with you. And I'm probably talking to myself here, as we often do on the show.
Yeah.
I'm telling myself not to look outside for what other people
that's
are
okay.
done.
Part of it is that's the whole part of this, right? Is
right?
we're all moving in the same direction, and so even the things that I'm sharing, a lot of these things that I share are things that I know that I'm working on. So it's like, if I'm working on that, I know other people are probably working on that too. So all right. So win for you, Eric.
Okay, win for me, and it's funny because it leads right into my challenges. Win for me is I got a lot of work done getting ready for the upcoming Impressions Expo.
Nice.
I had some stuff that was hanging up for me, and it was difficult, but I got a bunch of it done and ready. In a way that I wasn't expecting, because I was having some difficulties. So
that's awesome.
Getting ready for that, and I am hopeful for some of the stuff that I've got going on out there. I've got 4 classes, so it's a lot to get ready to be ready for. And I'm not the best traveler, not the best. I'm a nervous speaker. It takes me a while to get revved up, and the first show for me is always hard. Breaking that seal for the year is very difficult, but got a lot of that prep done. So I'm very happy that I got that going.
Good.
Lots of other wins going on in the rest of the world, but for me, that was the one that was like, I was really struggling. And so for me, the big win, even if it's not the big win comparatively to other stuff I got done, that was the big one for me.
Yeah. Well, it's not about comparing. It's just what win shows up the most for you, for sure. Brent says 500 hat rush order about to be wrapped up. So let's
worthwhile,
give
man.
a round of applause. Good job.
That's a lot of hats.
So if you guys have some other ones,
nice.
Evelyn is getting ready to conquer workroom. So good job.
Right on.
Yep, for sure.
Organization, good thing. Prep. How about you, sir? Your big win this week.
You're right there. It's like, gosh, was some good stuff going on. I'm just stoked about 2023. I know we've talked about this before, and it's just another change on the calendar, per se. But I think for me, everything kind of works in cycles, and I've always looked at the beginning of the year as kind of the refresh, renew, recycle, kind of get back at, and I'm just really excited. So my win, and quit dragging my feet here, my big win that I want to share with everybody is I'm officially have been asked to be part of the Start Here Academy again.
Nice.
And it was fantastic the last time, and they're going to do some stuff to make it even better, which I'm like, wow, you guys really are going all in on this. And so I'm really proud of the folks over at Graphics Pro for what they're trying to put together. They're trying to put together something that's really meaningful for people. And so this will be out at the Graphics Pro Expo in Indianapolis. And they've asked me to be a big part of it. And so I will be emceeing once again, but maybe even a little bit more. So stay tuned.
That's awesome. As for guys who don't know, I'll go ahead and throw that into the chat. Graphics Pro Expo. So check that out, graphicsproexpo.com. Worthwhile to find out. But that's something I know you really had a good time with last year, and the organization really kind of meshed with you, hit your purpose. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that again. Plus, I know people got a lot out of it.
Thank you.
So that's just fantastic. So check that out, graphicsproexpo.com.
Awesome.
Hyphens between the words. Things.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. If there's any other wins out there, certainly feel free to share them. But we have some other questions. And the good folks over at Corel Trainer,
nice.
David and Clay and the rest of the folks over there, we're ready for Start Here Academy. They were a sponsor last year, and the sponsors make that stuff happen. So check
So
those
yeah, if you
guys
guys
out.
don't know, Start Here Academy really focusing on kind of going a little bit about craft to commercial, I would
Yeah,
say is
yeah,
fair,
yeah,
but
yeah,
certainly about startups of any kind. So if you know somebody who's doing that, or if you yourself are working on startup, or if you're just looking to get refreshed, by all means, that is a good place to do it. Hear some inspiring stories and
yeah,
get in touch with Aaron. So
yeah,
yeah, share that with your
yeah,
friends. That's something that I would love to see grow
for
as we
sure.
go through this. I've
Yeah,
seen so much of that segment grow, and I want to see people start off on the right foot.
yeah. Well, and in my little kind of speech last year, I just gave
Yeah.
like a little 10-minute part while I was emceeing,
Hmm.
just to kind of open things up, and my whole pitch was about, I don't care if you've been in business for 30 years,
Yeah.
50 years, right? And I don't care if you're a multi-million dollar company, the successful people throughout the world always have that startup mentality,
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
have that desire to, again, it's a cycle. Okay, things are working, but let's go back down to the basics and the fundamentals, and then, work back up again. And so, anyhow, all right, I could go
Yeah.
on forever with that.
Beginner mindset's huge. I'll agree with you on that one. The beginner mindset's huge. I think that I never stop learning, and the day I stop wanting to learn, that's the day I should be doing something else. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so
Challenges.
for now, yes. So challenges. Now, one thing that I will share, in the future, or even right now, if you guys also want to share, what are the challenges that you've overcome? That could be a
Sure.
win.
Sure.
But then, what are the challenges that you're faced with right now? So
Hmm.
let's go back to Barb here first, because she shared this with her win. She says, need to work on social media and website, as this is my nemesis. So let's tackle that real quick, Eric. You've got some good info here for sure.
Funny enough, I'm going to kind of lean on what we talked about with Jay for some part of this is that
Mhm.
social media doesn't need to be your nemesis if you use your authentic voice and just document what you do. One of the things
Yeah.
I've heard that, and I'll admit it's harder sometimes. Like I'm on a different side of the world right now with decoration. When I was decorating every single day, the
Hmm.
great thing you do is you carry that smartphone with you. You have a little computer that has everything you need and a camera and everything involved.
Hmm.
Document everything you do and just share authentic parts of what you do in your business. That's what your social media probably should be.
Yeah.
Document the thing you're already doing. It doesn't have to be that difficult. You can get more involved with it, but if you're doing nothing else, that's what people really want to see. They
Yeah.
want to see the real process and what kind of solutions you offer. Yes, you can do more produced stuff and probably should at some point. The beginning of being consistent is just to document and share what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's the first thing. Social media, the critical word in the term social media is social. Be present,
Yeah.
interact, be consistent, and share what you're doing. And that's the first thing to know is that it's not as complicated as it sounds, and it doesn't have to be strange. It doesn't have to be weird. Plus, whatever way you address it is the right way if you're being yourself and if it really is aligned with your business and your brand. You don't have to change who you are. And
Yeah.
in fact, it's really not the best idea to fully change who you are to be on social media because then you
Yeah.
won't be that person when they show up in your shop or when
Exactly.
they talk to you.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's the first thing.
yeah.
Um,
Can I share real quick on that
Absolutely,
social
get
media
on
thing, and
it,
then let you come
please.
back to this?
Let's
Because
go.
Barb, I'll say this: you are great at, showing up here in social media, and communicating and engaging and stuff like that. So you're already actually doing it. M-
Mm,
I think probably a big thing that might help you if you're looking to improve that for your business is just do the same thing, but in spaces where your customers are at, not where you're learning, right? But
there
just
you
have
go.
that same engaged, asking questions about what's going on with them, sharing what you know about the
Yeah,
space,
yeah.
right? And that kind of thing. So that was just, maybe it's a community, maybe, Minnesota custom made, right? So maybe there's a
Sure.
Minnesota group, or involved in engaging in those kinds of things. So I just want to share that.
Oh, totally
So
true. You have to be
back
where
to
your
you.
customers are. That is a
Yeah.
big portion of it. You have to share where your customers are. It can't just be personal to you working on your business. It has to be what you're producing as well and the solutions you're offering.
Yeah, for
If it's
sure.
for business, part of it really has to be showing what you offer, showing what you are bringing to the table. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people get worried about setting up videos and photo shoots. And I'm like, a lot of it is just
Yeah.
documenting what
Yeah.
you're already doing. Or at the
Definitely.
very least, it can be a big chunk of what you're doing. It can
Sure.
be a big component when you're first
Yeah.
starting out, especially.
and and really just, yeah, keep doing it, right?
Yeah,
Consistently
doing it,
showing up, taking
consistently showing up.
action, because same thing with the website,
Huge.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this massively produced thing. Just what's the first action you can take? Okay, let's
Yeah.
get a header photo, right, or something like that, or
Sure.
let's get something up there, depending on how far you've gotten into it already, right? And so,
I'll be fully honest, even though I am the kind of person who does stuff myself and takes a lot of this on, there are times where it's not the right call for you to take yourself out of your business and do something that you completely don't know anything about and learn
yeah,
the entire ropes. It might be worthwhile to get a solution made for you or to use a service. Um, Websites are one of those things where I find people who are sitting there trying to like monkey with the back end of a template who've never done any of that stuff before. And I'm like, you know what? That may not be the best use of your time.
yeah,
Yes, sometimes it feels like we're saving money, but sometimes we're losing a lot of opportunity. I'm not
yeah,
saying that's always the case. There's a lot of really user friendly ways to do this stuff these days that weren't available back in the day when I first started doing this stuff. But most certainly, I've seen people hurt themselves by continually like they're monkeying with back end settings on a server that they have really no concept of what they do, and there's really no point to that. It's better
yeah,
to look at the expenditure of your time and decide what
yeah,
makes sense. Also, to be honest, there are certain levels of websites I've seen people build that just don't speak to their customers at all.
yeah,
There are some people where they do most of their work in person and they're not doing online design and it doesn't make sense for their business model, but they go buy a bunch of packages because they feel like it
yeah,
needs to be
yeah.
there. Make sure it makes sense for you and your model.
Sure. Yeah, it could just be a landing page that's got your phone number on it,
It
or
can be.
directions to your shop kind of thing,
It
right?
can
If,
be.
if
Now,
that's what
I
the
think
business you're
most
doing.
people want a little more than that,
Sure,
but yeah,
sure.
it can be. An informational website is still a real thing
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
day and age.
And very
Um,
and contact form on it, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I'm a big proponent of company stores and buying online. I just see there's certain elements I see people get into where I'm like, sometimes it's worthwhile.
Yeah,
You have to have the
yeah,
model for it, and you should probably understand who you're selling to and what solution you think it's providing to.
for sure.
What is it helping your customer do?
Yeah. Okay. So we're running
Yeah.
short on time. I've kind of curated it a little bit here, Eric.
Okay.
So we're gonna
Okay.
hit two more, and then I'm also
All right.
going to hit you with like the hot seat, like
Rapid fire.
speed round. Yeah,
Okay.
speed round.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So I just wanted to share this from Bill. One of his
Let's
wins
do
last
it.
week was finally finishing my embroidery company logo. It's always harder to work
Nice.
on your own, it seems. And Barb says,
Absolutely.
I agree with that. But then Brent here says his challenge is managing an embroidery department with not much experience. I have so much to learn. So, Eric, this is not the hot take round. This is you've got time to dig into this a little bit.
The little bit of time that I'll say is you do need to know your medium a little bit and know how it works. If you haven't before, it's worthwhile knowing the basics of how the operations work. If I can tell tell people one thing that I think is useful for any production facility whatsoever, including embroidery, it's understand how your information is flowing and make sure it's centrally located for everybody to see it, have a record of everything that you do, and to be very clear and consistent with how you record and transmit information.
Mhm.
Um, it's surprising how much of managing embroidery isn't about managing embroidery,
The
but
actual embroidery.
following
Yeah.
workflow of the information is huge.
Yeah.
Secondarily, also, yes, literal workflow, and I mean down to the point of how boxes go through the shop. Follow a job through your department from point to point, walk the job through and look at the strengths and weaknesses, where people spend extra time moving back and forth, what they're looking for, where they lose track, where they lose productivity, what they're constantly, like I said, what they stop for.
Yeah.
Look for stops and regressions. Wherever someone stops or has to look back to a department before them to ask a question and see what you can do to optimize that.
Sure. And can I
Super huge.
sorry, I'm
Please
gonna
jump
keep
in.
doing this to you because
Please.
just piggybacking real quick. The other
Yes.
part there, looking for those things, but then including the people involved with the solution, right? Empower them to be part of their own
Yes.
solution. So sorry, go ahead, Eric. Keep going.
100%. No, you're it. That's it. I'll stop it from there.
Okay.
There's a lot of technical things you need to know about embroidery for sure. That stuff is stuff you can pick up in manuals and online or watching my show.
Yeah.
And hey, ask me questions. I'm always looking for new show topics. So go to campbell.com at the contact us form and tell me
There
you
you
want a
go.
show about it. You might get it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, something specific standing out. It'll probably be
Ask.
on the take up at some point
You
soon
might
here.
get an
So
hour and a half off my dome.
there you go.
You
There you
never
go.
know.
All right, it's time for the hot takes here, the
Oh
fast
my
rounds.
God, dude.
So best underlay for loose weave Afghan, Eric.
If it's got a bunch of holes in it, I'm probably going to treat it like freestanding lace. So I'll probably do like a mesh underlay under it or some sort of knockdown like stitching because I would probably want something that washes out so I don't see all the stabilizer. If it's okay for you to see the stabilizer and that's not a problem, then you don't have to worry quite as much. Just make sure you're using really solid underlays. Satin stitches, you want like a double zigzag with an edge run, something like that with a lot of structure to it. Otherwise, treat it like lace because you might have areas where there's nothing behind it.
All right. Question number 2, speed round. Go.
Okay.
Favorite item to embroider?
Outerwear. Love jackets. They're usually smooth, usually stable materials, and I just like the ability to have a big canvas sometimes on the
2.
back.
What's the second thing?
Oh, second thing to embroider, work shirts. Love work shirts and
Okay.
patches.
3.
Patches always, but patches is not really. I wasn't ready for the speed round.
We'll hit you with
I
some
talk
more
too
speed
much.
rounds. That was fun. We'll hit you
I'm
with
gonna
some more
put
speed
you on that
rounds.
speed round next time, dude.
where you only can just say the answer. You can't explain it. All right. So that's what
All
we'll.
right.
Marianne says denim shirts too. Thank you
Love
guys.
'em.
Hopefully that was fun, and we'll do it again next week.
Talk to you next time,
All
guys.
right. Bye.